From the heart of Tiger Nation, this is where the insiders talk. Real stories, real access, and the pulse of Memphis athletics. You're tuned on beat with BCM. Your home for everything Memphis Tigers. What's up, everybody? I'm excited to be here, guys. My name is Kenny Stubblefield. This is Roman Cleary. I think to my left, to my right, whichever, he's right there. This is Shemaria Wiseman right over here to my other side. This is Shemaria. Y'all know, listen, we're excited about doing this show. It's a brand new show, inaugural edition of this show. It's called On Beat with BCM. Shemaria and Roman are the beat reporters for BCM, for the University of Memphis Lady Tigers with Shemaria, and Roman is the beat reporter for the University of Memphis men's Tiger basketball program. We will have some football talk too as well about the University of Memphis, but our goal for this show, I think, when we started talking about this is, listen, man, like, there are people that love to consume the things that y'all write and they want to hear what you have to say about things. What better way to do it than in a podcast where we're literally saying, hey, the people that are boots on the ground, that are at every event, everything that happens, every media availability, everything, anytime the coach speaks in front of a microphone, a player speaks in front of the microphone, these two are there. So let's have a show and let's discuss it, because this might be the place where you get the best information. So shout out to you, Roman. Shout out to you, Shemaria. How are y'all tonight?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here as well. Full disclosure, that was the first time ever seeing the intro. I didn't get a pre-screening of it or anything. You think I would, since I'm, one of the members here, but
Absolutely.
I guess I don't get the IMAX pre-screening treatment, but it's pretty fire. This whole thing is fire, and I'm happy to be here.
What's up, y'all? I'm happy to be here as well. Happy to be here. Talk some hoops.
Absolutely. That intro will change when we start to get more footage and things like that. It's going to look a little bit different. The reason why Roman and Shemaria didn't see the intro prior to the actual go time for this show is because it literally got finished about 45 minutes ago. And so that's the reason why. But no, anyway, I'm excited. I want y'all to, Shemaria, kind of tell everybody, the people that maybe see you on Twitter, see you on TikTok, see you writing on your Substack, all those kind of things. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into doing beat reporting for the University of Memphis.
Beat reporting. I've basically been a fan of basketball for a big portion of my life. Thanks to my older brother, I've been around it. AAU, he's played it, many levels of it. I unfortunately could not play it, so I had to find another way, to entertain, to kind of still be a part of it, but just in my own way, basically.
Yeah.
So I, was watching NBA games, obviously the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm from Memphis, so that was a team that I clung on to. And then I started to get into TikTok, and I just started making content around the Memphis Grizzlies. I reached out to Anthony Sane. Shout out to Anthony Sane, my mentor. And he was able to basically open a lot of doors for me, allow me to meet great people, form connections. And Bluff City Media was a platform he was on. He brought me on here to basically cover the Memphis women's basketball team, which had been in the works for, I want to say, a couple months, and then officially did my first season last year covering the team. Now I am here to basically talk about
to continue the work you've been doing. I'm telling you, I have been super impressed with the work that you've put in. I will say your hot takes on TikTok are wild. We might
I get that.
let me tell you, we love Shemaria. Her favorite player is Kyrie Irving. She is a Kyrie Irving fanatic. She will fight you over Kyrie Irving. Any wrong take about Kyrie, she will fight you. I know that about her. But no, shout out to Shemaria. You've been killing it the last couple of seasons, and glad to be able to start a second season with you, covering the Lady Tigers basketball program. Roman, everybody knows who you are, but tell everybody who you are.
Yeah, Shemaria is indeed here, and she is indeed much happier to be here than to watch the Grizzlies get absolutely waxed by the Rockets tonight.
My brother.
But
I need you to chill out. Is what I need you to do.
Okay. But yeah.
Hey, we're bringing joy back to basketball with this podcast. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes, indeed. well, I mean, I guess that will remain to be seen with either of these teams that we're covering here. But yeah, anyway, my name's Roman Cleary. I'm heading into my third season covering the Memphis Tigers men's basketball team for Bluff City Media. It's been an incredible couple of years so far. The first season went bad for Memphis. The second season went very good for Memphis, and both were quite astonishing and remarkable in a lot of ways. Prior to my time covering the team here, I was a play-by-play announcer for AHS Tiger Life in high school. That is the Arlington High School student media outlet, called football games, called basketball games for, a good 3 to 4 years. And then I got into college, started up at tigerblueprint.com, was the senior editor over there for a few months before migrating my way over to BCM. And since that time, as I've gotten into already, been able to cover a lot of cool things, experience a lot of awesome stuff, won a few awards. So yeah, we're rolling here heading into year 3.
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a really fun year. It might not be, I think there's just going to be a lot of storylines that come out of for both of these teams this year. And I think that this is the place, this podcast, we're going to be going live at 7 p.m. Every Wednesday night during the season, and just talking through kind of what happened the prior week, what happened in Memphis Tiger athletics the prior week. Our goal, we're going to be hopefully as soon as possible starting to have some players from the University of Memphis Lady Tigers and Men's Tiger basketball program on the show. We're going to be highlighting players of the week, kind of their stat lines, what they've done, and just kind of getting to know those players a little bit more, and just having a blast talking about the Tigers. Listen, so Shemaria, let's go. We initially, when we first started to do this podcast, we were going to go, let's do a season preview, kind of a season preview, roster construct, all that kind of stuff. But everybody's seen these Tigers, the Lady Tigers, play already. They played in the exhibition game against Vanderbilt, and then played in their season opener against Arkansas Pine Bluff this past week. Let's talk through real quick some of the expectations that are on Alex Simmons this year. Like, what are some of the things that you think in terms of like her success as the head coach of the University of Memphis? Like, what is she expecting out of this crew this year? And let's talk a little bit about the Vanderbilt exhibition game. What did you see out of that team during that game?
Okay, specifically out of the Vanderbilt game, the biggest thing that stood out to me was the fact that Memphis really, in my opinion, did not quit. They fought their way, to the point where they were only down 5 points at one point in that Vanderbilt game. And we're talking about Vanderbilt, a team that, if I'm not mistaken, made the tournament last year. I want to say they got kicked out first round, but it is what it is. This is Vanderbilt. They have one of the best players in the nation on their team, in Michaela Blake. She absolutely killed us. She had 40 that game. But it's no surprise that's who she is. But like a SEC team and all of that. But they, like I said, they got the game within 5 at one point. It's just a lot of the time it's late game execution not done correctly for this Memphis women's basketball team. And that's ultimately what was the biggest red flag in that game against Arkansas Pine Bluff, allowing a 25-10 run by Arkansas Pine Bluff late in that game. It was just, that's been one of the biggest issues, even in the last season that I covered.
So obviously this roster looks completely different from last year. She's got a lot of new players. I think 2 players have come back from last season.
Correct.
Talking to Alex Simmons in the offseason, what are some of the expectations and what are some of the things that she has been talking about? What are some of the main themes of what this Lady Tiger season, what she wants it to look like? What are some of those things you've seen?
I think accountability. She talked about this in the post-game conference, Arkansas Pine Bluff. That was a big issue last season as well. Players not holding themselves accountable, not executing what they've been doing in practices, what they talked about in huddles as well. Ultimately not ending up on the court. They're not doing that on the court, or they'll do it and then they'll completely run off of it, decide to focus on themselves. and become selfish with the ball and things like that. So I think accountability is one of the biggest focuses. Also, more so focusing on the inside game, dominating in the paint, not settling for shots on the perimeter, long jumpers, and things like that, I would say are some big focuses that Coach Alex Simmons has talked about.
Absolutely. Roman, you had a chance to actually talk to
Mhm.
Coach Simmons at the American Conference Media Days. Walking away from that interview that you had with her, what were some of the main themes you were hearing her say in that interview? What were some of the things that she was discussing?
Honestly, it was a lot of what Shemaria was describing in terms of the accountability and things of that nature. She did get pretty specific with, how, she brought in some pretty notable names last year, Tilly Bowler, Dee Dee Hageman mainly. Last year's roster was, at least on paper, a lot more star-studded than this year's is. And she didn't flat out say this, explicitly, and she especially didn't call out any names specifically during the 16 or so minutes that I got with her. But she did very much hint and allude to the fact that some of the big names that were expected to push Memphis in a winning direction last year didn't exactly, make up their end of the bargain, if you will, particularly with effort, not trying as hard on defense and that kind of thing. So she basically shifted her whole philosophy in terms of going for character first. In the portal, she went for less notable pieces. She got a few bigger names like, Corey Allen, Jordan Hunter. Those are probably the two biggest high profile people they got in the portal this year. But it's still undeniably a less talented on paper and a less notable roster in terms of the names on paper. So you're looking at a kind of this team is not going to be led by one or two people like it was last year. It's going to have to be a lot more of a collective effort. But I'm not going to lie, I also came out of that interview with some slight concerns. The way that she responded to some of the questions, I felt somewhat of a defensive, snarky type of vibe there. And so clearly, Alex knows the position that she's in, right? It's year 3. You regressed from year 1 to year 2. And if you have another regression, if you have another step back, then, things could be, really murky from that point, right? So I think this is a year where Alex knows that she has to win. This has to be a year where Memphis is at least a mid-tier type of team in the American Conference. And when you couple that with, let's just put it, a less than ideal start with losing to a Pine Bluff team that won just 3 games last year and lost an exhibition to Memphis's next opponent on the road, which is Little Rock on Friday. Things are in a real dicey spot for Alex Simmons and Memphis women's basketball overall, and they're going to have a pretty remarkable turnaround here, especially with the tough non-conference they have coming up.
Yeah, so obviously the Tigers played in the exhibition game against Vanderbilt and then actually opened up their season on Monday night against Arkansas Pine Bluff. They ultimately lost that game 69-64. And I think you described it, Shemaria. They were up by double digits going into the fourth quarter and just dropped the ball in the fourth quarter. Walking away from that game and that result of that game, are you concerned? Like, you were there at the game. Like, what did you see? Like, what were some of the things that you saw? What concerned you about what you saw? And what are some building blocks that the Tigers can take moving forward as they continue on in their regular season?
I mean, I think obviously the identity that this team will have going forward is their defense. Deja Richmond came into the game and was a complete energy booster for this team, offensively, defensively. They were able to hold this team to shooting under 25%. Like they made some first, like what they did in the first half was everything perfect. And going into halftime, they were up double digits. Like you said, going into the fourth, they were up double digits. So it's not like I don't see this team, possibly playing horribly. Not, how do I say this? That they have what it takes to beat other teams. It was literally just what they did not do late in that game, when not defending, giving up shots, allowing the opposing team's best player in India Bowen to go crazy. She had 18 points out of the 29 points that she had in total, like completely cooked them in the fourth quarter. The defense collapsing once again. They started settling for shots instead of jumpers instead of attacking the paint. So it's not like they don't have the fight that I see that they can definitely carry over into the rest of the season. Because they have the players, they have the bench. It's just about buying into Coach Alexis Simmons wholeheartedly. Because when they did that, that's when you saw the success. When they did not do that and they played selfishly, that's when you saw just a decline in everything. Just one game. I know it's a bad loss, or like Roman said, Arkansas Pine Bluff only won 3 games last season, but it is still just one game, the first game of the season. So it's good to see these bad parts of the team earlier in the season than I guess later on, to the point where you can't fix anything.
Yeah, you can usually tell, like if you don't watch a game and you want to kind of figure out the story of what happened, a lot of times, and not every time, because I don't want to put that out there as like, this is how you know. But most of the time you can probably look at the box score and go, okay, let me pick out a couple of stats. Like, what are the stats that told the story of why a team won or lost? And if you look at the Arkansas Pine Bluff Memphis box score, there's 2 stats that stick out. One of them is the 3-point shooting. The Tigers shot 5 for 28 in the game, 17.9%. That's Grizzly-esque. Like that's so bad. That is Memphis Grizzly-esque.
And the crazy part is Shay Harris, senior guard for the Tigers. She had 3 threes, and like she just, it was just brilliant.
At the end, the rest of the team made 2 3-pointers the rest of the game. That's not that's tough. And then the second one is the rebounds. They got out rebounded 62-46. Offensive rebounds 25-15. Defensive rebounds 37-31. It's not often that you see a team that is clearly in a level up from the team that they're playing lose those kind of effort stats like that, because rebounding is really an effort and an intensity type of thing. Exactly. Did you notice that in the game? Like, did the Tigers did they lack intensity and effort in it?
I think that came majority of the second half. You just didn't see that same fight once again. Deja Richmond, she was the only one out there really doing something for the entirety of the game. We saw her try to get steals, we saw her try to get stops late in that fourth, but I would say just tiredness and lack of execution was
Well, actually, Coach Alex Simmons actually spoke to the media after the game, and Shemaria was there at the press conference, got the video. So I want to show it to everybody. It's about a 3-minute long clip. I might stop and start it, and we can talk about what she's saying. But here's Coach Alex Simmons after the game against Arkansas Pine Bluff.
But I hope our team understands why we do in practice what we do, and that it will carry over much better than what it did today.
Coach, Pine Bluff total 25 offensive rebounds. What do you think that was due to?
Well, I think when you look at it, who got those offensive rebounds, it's the majority guards. I think we were forcing them into some quick shots and some forced shots a lot of the time, and our guards were relaxing. Again, that's something that we've been emphasizing to our guards in practice, because we see some of those bad habits happening. So, again, they saw a weakness in ours, and it was guard rebounding, and they took advantage of it.
Did you think the fourth quarter was more a product of bad execution or the team maybe getting tight?
I think it was a little bit of everything, to be honest. We weren't carrying over the things out of the huddles. I thought we would be able to turn them over a lot more than what we did, but we just weren't in great position defense. We weren't in our spots how we should have been.
To start the game, you guys had a really good press and trap defense going. What do you think changed about that in the fourth quarter? Do you think it just wasn't there as much, or?
You know what? When we knew that we could go a little bit smaller against this team, but I think the biggest thing is, Deja Richmond can't play everywhere. She's the one who came off the bench and really gave us some energy. I think we were forcing them. They took a timeout, and they were able to get back in it by just simply continuing to play their game and not really folding in their adversity.
Coach, they shot 36 free throws. You only shot 14. What do you think that was due to?
We just kept taking jumpers and long twos and forced threes. As you can see, we beat them. I think we had 30 points in the paint. We knew we could get paint points on this team, whether that be guards or whether that be post players. When you look at our post player stats, we didn't finish very well. And for some reason, we couldn't get great low post position. And our guards, I think sometimes we were forcing shots, and we stopped a lot of our momentum on the offensive end. I think we were getting stops, therefore a sequence, but for some reason we were just stopping our momentum.
It sounds like what she's saying, Shemaria and Roman, is that they just got out efforted the entire time. That there was just, it seemed to be kind of a lack of focus, a lack of being able to take things from the huddle to the floor, the lack of rebounding. The guards were just getting lazy out there. They were taking a lot of outside jumpers when they knew they had a physical advantage in the paint. It just, there seems to be, and I think you could see it as somebody who came from the University of Tennessee playing for Pat Summitt and the teams that she's had in the past, like that's not going to fly with Coach.
You could see the frustration on her face, the energy at the press. It wasn't, of course, not as expected.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it is a step up because she didn't talk after home losses last year. So I think it is a sign of progression there that she is kind of stepping up for the team there and, being accountable not just for herself, but for the group and the program as a whole. And perhaps even with a loss like this, that accountability can, move the team forward at least a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, kind of walk us through the next game they have. Roman mentioned it. They have a game on Friday against Little Rock. Is that right?
Little Rock, correct. Their first away game of the season. Little Rock, they finished 12-8 in their conference, is the Ohio Valley Conference play. Conference. They currently, currently, the last two games that they've met up with Little Rock, they have lost. So they'll be looking, going into this game, they'll be looking to, snap a 2-game losing streak and also bounce back from this loss. And Little Rock broke.
I really want it to be a situation where Alex has the success that I think she deserves, and we'll see if they can get it right. We'll see if they can get back on the right track with obviously a disappointing loss to Pine Bluff. Like that's just a loss that's I think we can be frank about it. It's pretty inexcusable for the University of Memphis to lose to Arkansas Pine Bluff. And so I hope that's a wake-up call, right? Like I hope it's a wake-up call for her team. Yeah. That you got to play. Like every game you have to play. You cannot walk into an arena or into a gym and think that just because you got Memphis on the front of your jersey that people are going to just lay down and not fight you. They're going to fight you, and you got to play.
They kept playing. She said that UAPB just kept playing their same game throughout the entirety. They never were rattled.
Absolutely. Well, Roman, let's get to you, man. We got the Memphis men's starting up their season, their regular season on Saturday afternoon at 2 p.m. against San Francisco, in what will be a very difficult non-conference schedule. And I think, Roman, we can be honest about the situation and say that it's okay to feel a little bit skeptical and hesitant and maybe a little bit worried about what we saw in the Arkansas exhibition game and in the Auburn exhibition game. Just what are your thoughts about, as the team is heading into the regular season opener, kind of where things stand for the Tigers?
I'm going to be honest. I didn't have too many takeaways overall from the exhibitions. Yeah, they didn't look good in either one. We can call it how it is there. But there were some clear things. Like, for example, Arkansas going on an 18-4 run in the final 5 minutes of the first game. That's not going to happen likely in a regular season game, right? That's a clear lack of effort, giving up in a meaningless game. Similarly, when you go to Auburn in the next game in Atlanta, 9 turnovers in the first 12 minutes. That's that's likely not going to happen in a regular season game where the team is actually trying, right? So we have to take what happens in these preseason scrimmages with a grain of salt. But at the same time, last year's team also got handled pretty good in both exhibitions, but you saw more effort than this. You saw a better fight, a significantly better fight than this. But what really has me concerned is not the exhibitions, it's not the roster, because honestly, before hearing what we heard today from Penny Hardaway, Curtis Givens, and Quante Berry at Laurie Walton, I honestly felt pretty, I don't want to say optimistic, but more optimistic than most about what Memphis could do with this non-conference schedule. Because first off, I don't think it's as good as last year's was. It's undeniably a super difficult gauntlet for sure, but it's not as good as last year's non-conference schedule was, in my opinion. And I still think there are some pieces on this Memphis roster that if they can kind of put it together, you still have something there. But then you go to today, right? And I don't know if it was intentional or not, but Penny Hardaway kind of set off the floodgates, didn't he?
Let's press time out on
Yeah,
that. Let's
yeah.
press time out on that because
Yeah,
me and you see the press conference differently, and I think that's okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go back to the Arkansas game. I want to go back to the exhibition games for 1 second because
Mhm.
obviously that Auburn game, it felt like to me there was a lack of I guess pushback on the things that Auburn was doing, especially with Memphis on the defensive side of the ball. Auburn had open lanes and open 3-point lines. Like it was like where are you actually guarding, right? Like where were the Tigers actually guarding? And it seemed pretty clear in that first half, especially they weren't guarding anywhere. Like they get open drives to the basket and wide open 3-pointers throughout that game, which is, I think, that's the part of it for me that is slightly concerning because if you play for Memphis and you're a Penny Hardaway, you play for Penny Hardaway, he is a defensive first. You've got to be a dog on defense if you want to play for me. So like you said, you mentioned last year's exhibition games. That is the one thing that you noticed about that team is while they might have at times struggled offensively, there was a lot of effort on the defensive end of the floor. And it just didn't feel that way in the Auburn game. But the Arkansas game, the first
13 minutes. I want to say
10 to 15 minutes of that Arkansas game. Is that who the Tigers are, or is that what they can be, or is that just an anomaly, or was Arkansas just playing easy? Like what do you think that was? Because they were doubling up Arkansas in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game.
Again, like I said before, I think it's too early to answer that question right now. Again, these are meaningless preseason exhibition games that do not count. So I think you're going to see a lot of the highs and a lot of the lows in those circumstances. But I will say, for those first 10 to 15 minutes that you're talking about there, you're starting to think, oh my
God, what is going on?
Is this Memphis team?
They were
whoa, are they really something here? And then the gradual degradation occurred there. So yeah,
it felt gradual, and then it felt like an onslaught at the very end, like
in the second half, especially. Yeah,
yeah.
Like I said, like 18-4 run in the final 5 minutes for Arkansas. Memphis actually stayed in it for most of the second half. They were getting dogged, but they stayed in it. Right, they were able to find a way to keep it somewhat competitive. They were down 81-71 with just under 5 to go, but then Arkansas goes on that 18-4 run where they make like their final 8 looks from the field. All but one of those was either a layup or a dunk. So, like you said, just letting up super easy lanes to the basket, and Memphis in that stretch missed their final 9 shots. So, outside of the complete and utter collapse that we saw, the Arkansas game was relatively competitive for the most part. You can't say that about Auburn. The Auburn game was over in about, I want to say, 10 minutes. Like, just objectively. Yeah. I know they stopped turning the ball over as much as the second half, and it was a bit more back and forth, but it was over after the first 10 or so minutes.
Yeah, you weren't making up that many points in 30 minutes of game time. Shemaria, real quick, talk about the Hoops for St. Jude Classic. Like, how much fun was
Oh
that?
my god, it was so. I loved it. Like I said, like when we did the test or whatever, but like I was trying to figure out how much bigger they could go. After having South Carolina, the best team in basketball at that time. Coming into this season, you get Vanderbilt and state rival, but Vanderbilt is good. SEC team. Once again, they have one of the best players in the SEC, Michaela Blakes. So seeing Shay Ralph and all that was just amazing. And I want to say, like, I still feel like the girls, the Memphis basketball team held their own.
Hey, they won the second and third quarter. You take out the first and fourth quarter, they won that game.
But complete, but like.
Unfortunately, that's not how it works, right?
Yeah,
that's not how it works.
I wish, but the Michaela Blake's 44-point game was something crazy. That was
yeah, she was phenomenal. But just the environment was awesome, right, Roman? Like it like even the men's game, especially. Like I had no. It was tough to get a full house down there for the ladies' game because it started at 5:30. People were leaving work and trying to get down there and all that kind of stuff. But when it was in prime time and it was the guys playing, that environment felt like a mid-season, mid-March type of environment. They said 9,000 people showed up to that, and I'm like, there had to have been way more than that.
Well, right? I mean, they're basing that off of the tickets sold.
Well, so, some folks snuck in then, because like I'm usually on the baseline, so it's hard for me to see kind of like all the way up at the top. But I was up at the top this time. I was in the pinnacle level. I was in one of the camera bays, and it was awesome. That environment was awesome in there. Like,
when you look up at the terrace level, it did get a bit more, it was a lot more empty up in the upper deck, but they were able to fill out the lower bowl, which is really what matters in the grand scheme of things, especially for TV. Looked good on TV. Had a good overall environment and atmosphere. I will say, I did find the player ceremony for Cal's players, I found it a little underwhelming. I found it a little rushed, just for me personally. Like, these are some of the biggest legends in the history of not just Memphis basketball, but Memphis Tigers athletics in general. Yeah, you didn't have the star from the OA team there, but you had Robert Dozier, you had Rodney Carney, you had DeJuan Wagner, you had Darius Washington. Like, you had some of the biggest names to ever play for this program, and you're telling me they get the same amount of love as, Hasheem Butler? No disrespect to Hasheem Butler or Nathaniel Root, but I'm just saying, man. Like, Rodney Carney's one of the 7 All-Americans in the history of Memphis Tiger basketball.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Memphis Hall of Famer too.
Yeah.
So
yeah, precise.
Yeah, but if Coach Alex Simmons press was going on, I kind of missed that. I really wanted to see that. But when I came out, the energy, positivity, the people were loud. I love the energy for the boys game. I left early, but during the boys game, of course, before it went to halftime. But yeah, it was nice.
A lot of fun. It was a cool environment. Cool. I don't take much away from exhibition games and say, to me, it felt like it was obvious that Penny was just trying to, kind of mess with rotations and see who would play well with each other and who wouldn't. I don't think you're going to see Curtis Givens and Doug McDaniel on the floor a lot together. I think you might see it a little bit, but it was very clear in that Arkansas game, and especially in that Auburn game, without one of them two on the floor, that ball ain't moving around at all on offense, right?
I did have one takeaway. Penny, your kid doesn't need to start, man. I'm sorry, man. Ashton's probably a little better than he was as a freshman. He can still shoot threes. He can be a lateral guy. He can be a body on defense, but he just doesn't have the athleticism to be a starting 4 at the D1 level. But, he can be a good reserve. He can be a piece. Just gotta, adequate, use all these guys and, space them in the right areas there.
I think what you saw was him trying to use Ashton as a potential Nick Jourdain style power forward, and that's just I think
it ain't his game, man.
Yeah, it's not his game. I think Aaron Bradshaw is a better fit for that role if you want to use it, if you want to use somebody in that place.
I mean, the problem is that it seems like and Penny has kind of indicated this with the way that he's kind of spoken. It seems like they want Tariq Ingram to be a big part of this, but he's just not there from a conditioning perspective right now.
Yeah.
And until he is, they're just going to have to kind of figure out things on the fly. They're probably going to have to use Bradshaw at the 5 more than they'd ideally like to. And the problem with that is that Hassan Abdul-Hakim is also still struggling with the quad bruise.
Yeah.
And he is he is, in my opinion, the most talented pound for pound guy that they have on that roster. I don't know if he'll end up being the best player because Dudley Daniel obviously comes in with a high pedigree, and Sincere Parker is going to be a high volume, high level scorer. But if Hassan Abdul-Hakim, with the tools that he has, if he can put it together, that can be your potential David Jones like breakout. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it even has a significantly high chance of happening. But if it's going to come from anyone on this roster, it's probably going to come from him.
Yeah.
So when you're missing those two, or not missing them, but you don't have either him or Ingram where you need them to be, things are just going to be tough down low right now.
Well, let's get to we buried the lead a little bit. You wrote in an article today, you were at the Lori Walton practice facility. It is Wednesday night, 7:38 in the evening, and the Tigers play Saturday at 2 p.m. Against San Francisco. They open up their regular season. You wrote an article and was at the press conference today with Penny Hardaway, with Curtis Givens III, and with Quante Berry, 2 new guys. Obviously, Curtis is from Memphis, and everybody knows kind of who he is. And there were some rather, I guess, prior to a season starting, some frank, blunt conversations had between the media and Penny Hardaway about his team. I have a couple of clips from the press conference. It's just some audio that I wanted to share with y'all and have both of you guys react to it. Here's one where Penny talks about some concerns that he has.
Yeah, I mean, 15 new guys, the way we played in those 2 exhibitions, even though we didn't put any plays in. We didn't put any plays in last year with PJ and those guys. They just went out there and competed. In the Carolina game, we lost that game without them having their best player, but we still competed. And then we went to Alabama and really had them down early, and they said, hey, let's take the fouls off, and nobody could foul out. And then it just became really a scrimmage like it's supposed to be. But the guys competed at a high level. We haven't competed at a high level outside of the first 10 minutes of the game against Arkansas. So there are some concerns about what's going on with this new group. But the 8 that we're going to trust has to go out there and get it done because it's new.
All right, Roman, break that down for us. What were some of the takeaways from that comment that Penny had about just not seeing an effort from his guys in those exhibition games?
Well, I'll be honest. I recorded that audio, but it did not come through on my end, so I don't know the exact quote you're referring to there. But he did, speak out about the lack of effort, the lack of energy, multiple times. The lead I had on my story is we haven't competed at a high level outside of the first 10 minutes of the game against Arkansas. So there are some concerns about what's going on with this new group, and I think you do see that to a degree, particularly on the defensive end. There are just some points where, at least in exhibition play, it doesn't look like Memphis is too interested in engaging themselves to the point where we really need to stop the other team, right? That's the kind of the mindset that they're in there. So yeah, it's the effort stuff is certainly astonishing from that point there.
Yeah. Shemaria?
That's very worrying, considering, so couple of 4 days until the very first game of the season. I did hear that they had a talk amongst each other. Quante
brought that up. They apparently had this meeting actually yesterday at Lori Walton. It was about 20 minutes long. Both the players and the coaches were there, and Quante said that at this meeting they nipped everything in the bud.
I hope so, because that's
I don't know how.
What does that mean, though?
Based off of what Penny said, I don't know how you can believe that at all. But I mean,
Nipped
Well,
everything in the bud. What was the?
yeah, like what prior to the season starting, like what issues are being nipped in the bud? Like, cause I get it. Like, I get it. I guess my big takeaway from it is if you're talking about the last time I remember Penny Hardaway having like major problems with locker room issues and things like that was the 21 team with Jalen Duren, with Amani Bates, with Landers Nolly, with DeAndre Williams, with Lester Quinones. And the main issue is that you had these two players in Jalen Duren and Amani Bates who were freshmen, who were highly touted freshmen coming in with big names, big energies, big entourages, if you will, big hype around them. And then you had Landers Nolly and Lester Quinones and DeAndre Williams, guys who had been in the program for multiple years at that point, who were the OGs on the team, who were the dogs on that team, who were the main heavy duty playmakers. And there seemed to be some conflict between those two factions on that team. This team doesn't feel like they have that. This is a brand new roster for Penny. There's nobody that's back on this team that was there last year. And there's really not anybody on this team that is coming from with a lot of hype and a lot of past success and a lot of this and a lot of that. It feels like you got a bunch of dudes on this team who have been in college for a while and are trying to either raise their game up one level to another level in the Memphis level, or you have guys who have come in early on 4 or 5 years ago with a lot of hype who have just not lived up to that success. Like it feels like everybody should be pulling in the same direction, right?
Well, going to the factions point, there may not be a faction right now, but something that Penny did say kind of caught my eye and maybe suggested there may be an inkling of factions being created. Going back to the effort and the energy point, Penny spoke on this quote: "The problem right now is the guys that are giving me the energy that I want don't have the amount of talent that the other guys have that aren't. We got to get that to where everybody's exerting the same amount of energy at a very high level." So the faction that could potentially be created here is the highly touted, stars on this team that are supposed to be the main players versus the dudes that maybe have a projected lesser role, but they're giving more of an effort in exhibitions. Mm-hmm. They're giving more of an effort in practice. And perhaps there could be a war over who gets more playing time in that instance. And Penny played into this a little bit more, where to this point, he still has not determined any starters. There are no set starters, according to him. And he added that the guys that you're going to see out there are the people that he trusts, regardless of the pedigree, regardless of the talent. So it is going to be interesting to see how that particularly unfolds.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting interesting development, because it's like there's not a single player on this roster. There's a lot of talent on this roster, but there's not a single player on this roster that has earned the right to be a diva about anything.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and that's where I would say, that's what I felt like this whole press conference was, Roman. It didn't feel like it was a sounding of the alarms. It felt like it was a message to the team. Bro, y'all get y'all stuff together, or this thing is going to go, or you're not going to like the side of me that comes out, Shemaria. Is that what you heard from Penny?
That's what I'm getting to. And I heavily agree. I don't think there's a player that's like solidified. You're given this spot. I would have to, I don't think so either.
Well, Doug.
Yeah.
Doug has to be the starting point. They don't have anyone else. They don't have anyone else that can do that. Yeah. So besides Doug and maybe Bradshaw, I largely agree. Yeah.
I am. To me, that felt like I've covered Penny now for 8 years, the entirety of his tenure at the University of Memphis, and I have heard him at times take things public from the locker room that I would probably not take public if I was the coach of that team, right? Mm-hmm. He's used the media in the past to get points across. It's worked out well at times, and it's not worked out well in other times. But the energy that I got from this press conference today, it felt more like he was laying down the law, laying down the gauntlet, right? Like, hey, this is the expectation that I have for this team. And if you're not going to, at every waking moment that you're on this team and on this floor and in this practice facility and working, and that if you're not going to abide by it, then you're not going to play no matter who you are. And that is one of the things that I think came out of a couple of seasons ago when he had all those issues with that team, that one specific team. He talked about pity minutes, right? Like he talked about feeling like he had to give pity minutes away to people. That's changed with him. Like he's not that coach anymore.
Yeah, he's going to wax the rotation from what he tells us. He's been playing, double-digit guys. I think he played like 11 against Arkansas, and he played all 15 against Auburn. You're not going to see that against San Francisco. You're going to get 7 to 8 guys at most. That's what he told us. And I believe that's the right decision because Memphis kept the rotation pretty short last year. And, well, they had to. Granted, they had to, but they still did it, and it produced the most successful season in his tenure. Yeah. So I do feel like Penny is drawing a bit from that because that's just how it needs to go in college basketball. You may think you have depth to where you can kind of pull it off, but what history kind of tells us is that you need to be sticking with that 7 to 8 guy rotation. And Penny seemed like he was kind of going to go back to the double-digit rotation thing earlier in the offseason when we asked him about it.
He did
but
say that.
But I think the exhibitions and the particular shortcomings that Memphis has perhaps had in practice behind the scenes, I think that has maybe changed his thinking there a little bit.
All right, Roman, I want you to do me a favor before we get out of here. I want you to tell me 2 things. All right.
Sure.
Coming out of the press conference today, I want you to tell me what are your thoughts. What is that 7 to 8 man rotation? I'm not talking about the starters yet, but if you had to take a guess based on what you've seen out of these exhibition games, give me a 7 to 8 man rotation.
So do you want me to paint this in what we might see against San Francisco or just long-term throughout the season?
I would say long-term throughout the season.
Okay. So to me, if it were my kind of viewing here, I would go with ideally, if everything works out the way it hypothetically can, and you have, the most talented guys on the floor kind of living up to their potential, I would ideally have Doug at the 1, Sincere at the 2, Hassan Abdul-Hakim at the 3, Aaron Bradshaw at the 4, and Tariq Ingram at the 5. I think those are the 5 most high potential, most talented guys they have. You would have, Zachary Davis as that 6th man coming off the bench. You would likely have Curtis Givens. I think you would like to see him as take that backup point guard role, especially as a Memphian. And honestly, I think both Barry and Thedford need to get on the floor as well. Overall, I think that needs to happen, but that already takes you up to 9. So that's where the competition can kind of creep in there, I think. But I think those are the 9 guys, the 8 to 9 guys that absolutely I think have to play.
Well, it's crazy because you say those names, and I'm thinking of like 3 other names of guys. Like you bring in 3 7-footers. Well, you only got 1 in that 7 8 man 9 rotation, right? Like, and I thought Tierno Silva was actually pretty good in that Arkansas game, especially.
Silla's gonna have to do stuff as well. But like Curtis is the only other really playmaking ball handler you have. So he's just someone that is going to have to play by necessity. In an ideal world, Quante Berry is a better player than him. Let's just call it how it is. But Quante isn't near as good of a playmaker. He isn't near as good of a ball handler. Like he's not a 1 like Penny tried to mold him into throughout this offseason. A few weeks ago, it was 3-point guards, right? It was Doug, it was CG3, it was Quante Berry. Now it's down to 2-point guards. That's Doug and Curtis. So I think that kind of tells you the lack of progression, perhaps, that Quante Berry is unfortunately making as a 1. He's just a better combo guard /2 guard, so that's what he's going to have to be. I think Thedford can do some good things. Thedford's a Memphis guy, so I imagine that he probably has the leg up in that situation. Yeah. He also has more years of eligibility remaining as well. But yeah, it's hard to narrow down an 8-man rotation at this point. I still think that, that there's going to have to be inner competitions there and just game action that has to be seen.
Yeah.
That's going to have to determine all those things. But yeah, like you said, Silla looked really good in both those exhibitions.
Well, it's going to be interesting because obviously you've got the top 5 that you mentioned. 2 of those guys are experiencing one of them is experiencing health issues. And the other one is experiencing, I didn't play a whole lot before, which honestly kind of scares me because it reminds me a lot of your boy, Jordan Brown, from a couple of years ago. A guy who was waiting for a waiver eligibility, waiting for.
No, I mean, not really. Not really. He just entered the portal late.
And just didn't while he was waiting, just didn't get any work in. And that's what Penny said in the press conference today, is that Tark just didn't play. He didn't work out a whole lot as he was waiting for his waiver to come through. And I was like, okay. Like,
but he also said that he's lost 13 pounds.
That's good.
Since coming to Memphis. And he did say that he has looked good throughout this week. So maybe Tariq Ingram is getting closer to the point where he needs to be than what it might seem right now. But I still think Abdul Hakim is probably a bigger issue at the moment, because it just seems like that quad bruise continues to harp on him there.
It's just not going away, is it?
Yeah. No. I mean, Penny says it's up to 75-80%, which is a pretty drastic step down from where we were in late September, where the quad bruise first came up. And when I think I asked him, is Hassan going to be good by exhibition time? And Penny seemed pretty confident when he said, yeah, he'll be all right. And it didn't end up that way.
Just seems to be lingering a little bit. All right, guys. Well, that awesome stuff. I'm excited about both of these seasons. I'm excited about y'all's coverage and what y'all are going to do for Bluff City Media covering the Lady Tigers and the Men's Tigers, respectively. Shemaria, where can folks find you at?
Oh, my Twitter, Maria W knows best. And TikTok, if y'all want to follow me there, same thing, Maria W knows best.
And your Substack, where's your Substack at?
In my bio on Twitter.
In your bio on Twitter, Shemaria Wiseman on Twitter. Maria W knows best. Mm-hmm. She does know best. Roman, where can folks find you?
You can find me on X/Twitter at ROA Clear. That is where most of my University of Memphis coverage is going to be. I'm on other social medias at that handle, but in terms of if you want Tiger stuff, it's mainly going to be on X for the most part.
Awesome. Well, look, we'll be back here next week. The Lady Tigers will have played 1 or 2 more games before we come back next week, and the men will be playing. They have a game against San Francisco and then at Ole Miss.
At Ole Miss. So late Tuesday night trip to Oxford for your boy. Second time going to Oxford since covering the team. So I'll go experience some hottie toddy, if you will, and come back with my report on next week.
Well, I'll tell you this, Oxford, that arena, that environment is pretty tough for the Tigers. Like,
the pavilion is sweet. Penny is, I believe, 0-2 there now.
Yep.
So we'll try to go up to 1-2, and also shout out to Cello Jackson for committing to Memphis last week.
Yes,
local Memphis kid, first local Memphis area high schooler to commit to the Tigers since Jonathan Lawson in 2021. I know that story seems kind of minute right now because we got a season starting here, but I feel like that is a pretty significant thing, especially in the long term. Memphis also trying to get Fred Smith in there, likely will. So could be getting some real Memphis blood back on the team here pretty soon.
It's so funny. When I first started covering the University of Memphis Tiger basketball program, you would see it was before the portal was a really big deal, and everybody was going through, there's still a bunch of high school recruits and stuff like that. And it was always so much fun to see guys that committed to the University of Memphis start to recruit for the University of Memphis. And for the first time in a few years, the University of Memphis has a freshman, a guy who's committed to play for the University of Memphis next year, who's actively recruiting Fred Smith Jr. And I think it's so much fun to see, man. Like, you don't see that often in the portal world anymore. You see it in high school, and you saw him today. Fred Smith is on a trip to St. Louis on a visit, and Cello Jackson was in his comments like, "Bro, wrong blue, man, wrong blue." I love that. All right, guys. Well, shout out to y'all. You guys are awesome. Y'all follow them, ROA Clear on Twitter. Y'all follow Shemaria, Maria W knows best on Twitter. Go check out their Substack. You'll find everything there. And we will see you back here next week with another edition of On Beat with BCM.